I've talked a lot on my program, and I'm sure Caden has too, about indoctrination in the classroom. And I've really tried to stress the idea that it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. And I've been encouraging my listeners and all the members of the conservative youth to take a stand against indoctrination, to challenge your teachers, to question with boldness, as Thomas Jefferson said. So today, I walked into my science lab that I have every Wednesday, and it's an earth science class. And since the beginning of the semester, to tell you the truth, I loved this teacher. I mean, I really, really liked him a lot. I knew he was liberal from the beginning, because he openly told us. But I didn't care because he wasn't indoctrinating the classroom. He kept politics out of it. And things were easy sailing up until today. And I walked into lab, and I sat down. I was talking to my friends, as I usually do, and waiting for the teacher and everything. And he goes to the front of class and says, "All right, guys, today's going to be a very, very easy lab. It's the last lab of the school year, and I just kind of want to I want to wind things down with a movie." I'm thinking to myself, awesome. So we'll just get a worksheet and have to just sit back, relax, and watch a movie. And then he said, "The movie will be a great introduction to our final unit, which is climate change." And the minute he said that, I was sitting there thinking to myself, oh, dear God, because I knew it was coming. I was praying that it wouldn't, but it came. He said, "The movie we're watching today, ladies and gentlemen, is Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore." And I was sitting there, my blood started to boil, and I was uncomfortable because I cannot. I don't only. I mean the movie's boring, obviously, but it's complete. It's lies. The entire movie is lies, and I was sitting there pissed off because I was not willing to sit there for an hour and a half watching this crap, this idiot in the film, Al Gore, walking around with his fancy PowerPoints, listening to him lie and filling out a worksheet about it. I was pissed off. Because this isn't the first time a science teacher has done this. I've taken science classes, obviously, in grade school, in middle school, and in high school. And I must have seen the movie Inconvenient Truth in different science classes at least 3 times. This would have been my 4th. And each time prior to this, I just sucked it up and sat through it. But this time was different. This time I was not prepared to sit through this again. So the teacher, he passed out the lab, with the questions that we had to answer while we watched Al Gore's movie. And I want to read you these questions. The first one says, describe how global warming occurs. Number 2 says, the Earth's carbon dioxide levels fluctuate from summer to winter. What causes this natural fluctuation? Number 3 says, what can bubbles of atmosphere trapped in glacial ice tell us? Number 4, how do measurements of carbon dioxide and temperature compare? Number 5, the movie mentions canaries in a coal mine. What is meant by this, and what are the 2 canaries for global warming? Number 6, what are 3 misconceptions about global warming as presented by the former vice president? Global warming, to tell you the truth, isn't something that I've talked about very much on my program, just because it hasn't come up. But I will say right now that I think it's a bunch of bullcrap. I do think the Earth is warming, but I don't think it's caused by humans. I think it's just caused by natural Earth cycles. So I felt weird and uncomfortable answering these questions because I'm filling out a lab with answers that go against everything I believe. I'm literally writing down lies. Describe how global warming occurs. The other one, how do measurements of carbon dioxide and temperature compare? I mean, this guy was asking me to go against my political beliefs and lie. And so what I did was I sat through the movie for about 15 minutes. And I'm sitting next to my friend in the class, and he's talking to me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to just keep my cool. And he knows something's up. And I whisper to him, I say, I can't stand this. I got to get the hell out of here. And he looks at me, he's like, what? Yeah, I got to get the hell out of here. So I pack up my bag. This is during the movie. You know, everyone's filling out the paper and taking notes and everything. And I pack up my bag. I go up to the teacher, who's at his podium standing off to the side, and I say quietly to him, listen, I don't buy any of this in the movie. I don't buy it at all. I think it's just full of lies. And and you're asking me to fill out these questions that go completely against my views. And he looked a little confused and was like, wait, what? And I said, yeah, I believe all of this stuff in the movie is garbage. I've seen this movie many times. I'll fill out the lab on my own time, but I'm not watching this movie. And he looked very, very taken back, and he said, fine. So I said, I'll email you and explain myself further, and I grabbed my bag and I walked out of the classroom. I grabbed my bag and walked straight out. So I'm not going to sit through it. I refuse. I absolutely refuse. So I got back to my dorm room, and I emailed him. And just to explain myself further. I said, hi, Professor. I'm sorry about walking out of lab today. The worksheet and the movie made me feel a bit uncomfortable because they go against my personal beliefs. I do think that the Earth is warming, but do not believe that humans are having nearly as much impact as Earth's natural weather patterns. The questions that were included in the lab were asking me to write things that I personally did not believe. I have seen Inconvenient Truth before, and I have studied it extensively. Many of the things that Al Gore mentions in the film are either exaggerated or simply not true. Of course, I realize that everyone has their own opinions, which is fine. It's just that the lab questions were asking me to go against my opinions with regards to global warming. I hope you understand. Thanks, Jason. He got back to me within a few minutes. And listen to what he said. He said, Jason, first of all, your grade won't be affected by disagreeing with me. Feel free to answer as you see fit on the sheet, but note your scientific source for the information. I was a skeptic at your age and beyond, but the further I have gotten into the science, the more talks I have seen from both sides, and yes, as a scientist, I have seen a number of talks and interviews by so-called skeptics and otherwise, the more trouble I had maintaining my thinking. My advice is keeping an open mind. Oh, I haven't heard that one before. Hearing arguments from both sides, haven't heard that one before, of any topics can do nothing but either strengthen your conviction or allow you to see things with a different perspective. Part of the experience of older age is you get better about listening to and thinking critically about something you disagree with rather than saying, I don't agree, so I don't want to listen to it. That's not what I was saying. So then I got back to him and I said, I completely understand where you are coming from. Hearing both sides to an argument is always important, but as I said, I have watched that movie several times and read about the topic at great length. I also have hosted a political radio program for 4 years now, so I have been exposed to a lot of opposing views through that. But anyway, thank you very much for understanding. And he replied simply, okay. Keep sources for science from either side from science, not political agendas. So I think he was a little taken back by this, and to be perfectly honest with you, his email sounded a bit condescending. And I'm not going to sit here and bash this guy as I have with other liberal teachers, because I still like this guy. He's a great man. He's very, very nice, very helpful, and I had no problems with him for the entire semester. But I'm still not going to take this. Yeah, he's a nice guy, but I'm not going to put up with indoctrination, no matter who it comes from. I refuse. And yeah, it did sound a little condescending when he said, when I was your age, I was skeptical too, but keep an open mind. Yeah, I do have an open mind, Professor. I do. I've debated this topic. I've researched it. I've written about it in my book. I got all the stuff on the other side, and I've concluded that it's all bullcrap.
Factor Talk Radio.